A warm welcome to every League One fan watching this video, because I'm sure at the end of this video you will not be giving me a warm goodbye. We're ranking every League One stadium/ground from best to worst today. As always, when we do stadium rankings, there's going to be controversy. There's going to be people saying you've got awful ball knowledge, you don't know this, you don't know that. Everything's going to be happening in the comments. So before we get going, if you're kind enough, please consider hitting the subscribe button, dropping a like, and let me know your favourite ground in League One in the comment section down below. Without further ado, let's get into my 24th place. 24th place, Bolton Albion. Now, with a capacity of just under 7,000, which is probably the right size for Bolton Albion, don't get me wrong. They don't get massive attendances, they don't bring, thousands of fans away from home and don't get thousands of fans at home, but they filled just 50% of the ground on average last season. In terms of League One standards, it's a very, very small ground. 23rd place, Crawley Town, another ground that would not look out of place at all in non-league. Again, it probably suits Crawley Town well, but in comparison to some of the grounds we're going to be looking at in League One, this does not get out of the bottom two. 22nd place, Stevenage, the Lamex. Now, looking at other stadiums, I think this is definitely deserved in 22nd place. Again, it's nothing spectacular. I like the terracing on the side of the stand, which gives it that traditional feel to the ground. The away end looks a decent-ish size, so it's not a ground I'm eager to visit. I don't know, I'm sure there's probably mixed reviews from fans that have gone there. 21st place, Cambridge United, the Abbey. Now, it's definitely got that old-school vibe about it. Capacity of just under 8,000. And of course, you'll probably need binoculars if you're in that away end. You're about a million feet away from the ground, but yeah, again, it's old school. I can understand, yeah, it's nice because it's traditional, but for me, I don't know, I just don't think it is League One standard. 21st place, Northampton Town. Now, the new West Stand is responsible for over half of the stadium's capacity, which I think is absolutely crazy. The other stands are really relatively small in terms of League One and are probably the right size for Northampton, but again, there's just something about Northampton's ground that I don't know if it's the stand layouts. I just don't know. I do not know what it is about Northampton Town that I just don't like. 19th place, Mansfield Town. Now, with a capacity of just over 9,000, you've got three good sized stands, with the West Stand being, of course, the one that stands out the most. But the main thing Mansfield need to do to take it from 19th to possibly 9th place is they need to do something with that Bishop Street stand. It's currently out of use, I think, or they've just opened it to supporters. It's very small. It doesn't really give it that intimidation wow factor that you need for a stadium, but don't get me wrong, all other stands are really good size, but again, it just sort of gives that three stand stadium vibe. 18th place, Shrewsbury. Now, it's a modern stadium with four stands that are of a good size. Apart from that, it's just a very plain and simple layout. There's nothing you can really say that's really bad about it, apart from the fact it is quite simple, but if you go for something extravagant in this league, it's probably going to look a really, really silly choice. Again, it's just under 10,000 capacity. Nothing too bad to say about it. It's just a bang average ground. 17th place, Bristol Rovers. Some of you might rank it lower, but for me, I'm a fan of just how unique it is. Of course, you've got the standing terrace that runs the majority of the way around the stadium, and of course, you've got the new away stand behind the goal, which is a really, really good size. I'm not sure if that's permanent or temporary, but again, it's definitely not one you're going to see creeping into the top 12, top 10. And moving on to 16th place, Exeter City, St James's Park. It's a ground I really hope to visit this season because I love Devon, I love that part of the country, but of course they've recently refurbished a new stand, and I'm sure they'll be continuing to look to refurbish some of the other parts of the stadium in the future. Not to forget the Kop stand behind the goal, which of course is the best feature at St James's Park. Who doesn't love an all terrace Kop stand? It's a really, really smart feature. And 16th place for Exeter. 15th place, Wycombe Wanderers. For me, it's a very mediocre stadium, mid at best. In my opinion, it's just a very strange ground to look at, and when you're watching games, I remember watching them against Aston Villa in the FA Cup a couple of years ago, probably more than a couple of years ago now, but I just don't know, there's something about it which just doesn't really appeal to me. 14th place, Leyton Orient, Brisbane Road. Now, possibly ranking Brisbane Road is a bit low, but I think it's a good ground overall, one I'm really hoping to do at the end of September. It seems to be a favourite for away fans. There's lots of high rankings of Brisbane Road online. It's got the hint of an old school vibe and a newer vibe to it in regards to the stands that you see inside the stadium. Hopefully one I can tick off at the end of the month. 13th place, Stockport County. Don't get me wrong, I've seen the plans Stockport have for their stadium, and this will take it to a top 5 ground, if not a top 3 ground. It looks spectacular what they are planning to do in the next couple of years. But if we're talking about the present, if we're talking about what their ground looks like now, you've of course got the main stand being the Cheadle end, and you've got the stand behind the goal, which I think is definitely questionable without a roof. Of course, you could probably say the same about Wrexham, but I think Stockport fans will agree that a stadium expansion is needed to align with the club's trajectory, because I think at the minute, of course, you've got that stand. If you're looking from where the cameras are placed, you look straight across. That's quite an oldish ground, not big in capacity, but the Cheadle end is massive. You've got the stand where the camera's usually from, which is relatively small, and behind the goal. Yeah, the less said the better. 12th place, Lincoln City, Sincil Bank. Now, I quite like Sincil Bank, and I think it definitely does deserve to be in 12th place. I think it's definitely got its good features. You've, of course, got that really nice stand that runs across, which is massive, and one that can create some really good atmosphere. Think back in the day, that FA Cup run, Ipswich Town at home, Nathan Arnold rounding the keeper. I remember watching that game on the telly downstairs, but it's definitely got its good features, and I think Lincoln fans will agree that a new stand in place of the SRP stand is definitely needed. But apart from that, I think Sincil Bank is a really tidy ground. 11th place, Peterborough United, the Western Homes Stadium. I think it is a good stadium in terms of size. It's got quite an old school vibe in terms of, you know, looking inside the ground, looking at the stands. One that I think fans look forward to visiting, but for me, I think it is a decent stadium. 10th place, the Racecourse Ground, home of Wrexham Football Club. A bit biased maybe, the fact that we've got a temporary stand, that will probably make a lot of people put it in the bottom 4, but it looks really good now we've got 4 sides. When it was a 3-sided stadium, it did look a bit weird looking on the highlights, seeing there being loads of cars and diggers behind the side of the goal. But when you look at the Racecourse Ground, I've seen a lot of fans looking forward to visiting. The history that has been created inside that ground, it's the oldest international ground that is still in use today, so there's been a lot of history inside that ground. The famous 2-1 win at home to Arsenal in the FA Cup. I love going to the Racecourse. Of course, it's my second home. I've always loved going there. I've been there for over 10 years now. Nearly every Saturday is spent inside the Racecourse Ground. It is a second home, and it is a place I adore. 9th place, Rotherham United. Now, I think I probably should have put the Racecourse above Rotherham, and maybe above my 8th and 7th place, which I think I've cocked this up massively. But 9th place, I put Rotherham. It's a new, smart-looking stadium. There's good reviews from, of course, the away fans that have been there. A stadium that's definitely worthy of being in this top 10 in this list. I've seen it's quite steep behind one of the goals, but I think I've made a mistake. I think I've made a massive mistake, and this is not even me being biased. I think Wrexham should be at least 8th place in this ranking, but hey ho, let's please all the fans in the league. 8th place, Blackpool, Bloomfield Road. Now, I love all the 3 stands that join together. If you can't tell already, I'm a big fan of all stands that are conjoined, that, you know, you can't let the noise go out. It's a good way end as well. You've got a whole stand there. We play them on an Easter weekend. That is going to be ridiculous. Wrexham fans, 3,500, 4,000 fans turning up hungover to Bloomfield Road. It'll be a cracking atmosphere. It'll be great weather, hopefully. So one that I'm very much looking forward to visiting. A lot of fans will be excited to visit Blackpool for the game, maybe not so much for the football. 7th place, Wigan Athletic, the DW Stadium. Now, I've put this 7th place, and a lot of fans will probably disagree. I'm looking at this, I'm looking at size, I'm looking at the structure of the ground, and it's a massive, massive ground for League One. A shame it's never really half full over match days, but an away-in capacity of 5,200, I'm not complaining. We'll probably all sell 5,200 out, so that'll be a good away-in that I'm looking forward to. But if you're looking at size, the DW, it's a smart ground, it's a newish ground, and one, of course, that is really big in size. 6th place, Reading. If I'm right in saying it used to be called the Majewski, probably bottled that. I used to call it the Majewski, which is not right at all. As it, of course, used to be called back in the day. You collect the match attacks, it would be the one I've got in my collection probably a million times, but ground that I've obviously seen a lot of match of the day, and one that's really aesthetically pleasing inside the ground and reminds me of the CBS Arena at Coventry City. In my opinion, it's a stadium that would not look out of place in the Premier League, and a away end that I'm really looking forward to being in. 5th place, Huddersfield Town, the John Smith Stadium. People will either love or hate this layout of the John Smiths, but in fact, I'm a massive fan of it. I really like the John Smith Stadium. Always stood out on match of the day, and of course when they were in the Premier League, it's got 25,000 capacity, it's big in size, and of course it will definitely cause mixed opinions, the layout. And moving on to 4th place, Barnsley, Oakwell. Now, it has that really slight traditional feel to the ground. Of course, it's massive in size, 24,000 capacity, with an away end that could hold up to 6,000, so I'm really excited to be visiting Barnsley. I think we play them at the start of 2025. It's a smart ground, of course. It's one of the only traditional grounds that has sort of been in League One for the past couple of seasons, but one I'm a massive, massive fan of. That allows us to move swiftly on to 3rd place, Bolton Wanderers. Now, the Reebok, as it will always be called to me. I've been there. My experience was good. I thought Bolton fans barely heard a noise off them, but if you're looking at stadiums, it did get that wow factor. You know, I've definitely been in stadiums that I've got more of a wow factor too. Of course, you've got the same design as Huddersfield. I don't know if I didn't get that wow factor due to the layout of it inside side, but Huddersfield, I don't know, they're the same stadium layout, but you know, I walked in MK Dons' stadium last year and I thought, this is massive. Bolton's different in terms of size, but layout could possibly be the reason why I wasn't really like blown away by it. Of course, nearly 30,000 capacity. It's built by the same stadium company designers as Huddersfield Town. But yeah, I think in terms of size, you've got to give credit to Bolton Wanderers. Second place, Charlton Athletic, the Valley. This is the away day I'm so looking forward to this season. I don't even know when we're playing them, but this is going to be such a brilliant away day, a massive ground. You've got the London away day, plenty of Wrexham fans will be travelling down for this one. Of course, it's an incredible stadium. It's the third biggest in terms of size in League One. A lot of character, and I don't need to say it enough times, it is massive. And moving on to first place, there was only going to be one team in first. It's Birmingham City. St Andrews is such an iconic stadium in the English Pyramid. Plenty of character, a clear number one winner for me, and one that I am very much looking forward to in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Who was the best? Who was the worst League One stadium? And of course, like I said, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. See you in the next one.